And she stayed on. My grandfather was killed in 1913, and the Maine Central Railroad asked her if she would stay on and maintain the facility, and she did so and brought up 4 children there. My mother being the last of the children. She was born in 1911, 2 years before her father's death. The children went to school in Bartlett, or down at the Inn Unique, and the train would pick them up in the morning. The train wouldn't stop. My grandmother would have to position them alongside the track at intervals so the conductor could grab them and put them on the train. And then the same thing at night when the afternoon train comes back up, they would get off, the train wouldn't stop, he'd have to help them off and so forth. So that was their way of getting back and forth to school. As I said, the house had no electricity, and the only outside entertainment was a battery-operated radio that they had there. And they, as I said, my grandmother stayed on until 1941, at which time she left, and then another agent took over, and the house was used up until about 1952. And after that it was closed up, but it was damaged greatly by vandals going in through the house. And the Maine Central Railroad in 1972, I think it was, decided for liability purposes that they would burn the house, so they did. And the house is no longer there. The family does have a monument down there for anybody that's interested in walking down the tracks. There's a monument, a stone monument there of the house and with the former children outside the house. So we have a lot of memories with the house, and I'll turn this view around so you can see the interior of the house as well as the front of the house. As you're looking at the back of the house now, over on the right-hand side there you can see a huge water tank, and that's where the water was kept in the winter months when they didn't have running water from the mountain. On the right-hand side also, on the second level, is the kitchen area, and on the upper level is the workman's area, bedroom area. Over here, you have your dining room area, and you have the private area for the family over on this side of the house. I think there were 4 bedrooms in the house at that time. They had a big furnace down here with steam heat throughout the house, and there, as I said, with no running water, and they used outside toilets that were attached to the house. And any bathing that was done, the water had to be pumped up, heated in the stove, and then so forth. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but that was done to scale. Abe and Chucky got in touch with the Maine Central Railroad and got the actual drawings for the house, so the thing was done to scale, showing the basement area, the first floor area, and then the upper levels. There was a parlor area on the front of this section here, and my grandmother had an organ in there and a piano. And if you can see the photo up on the back side here beyond the house, you can see how close the house is to the railroad track. There wasn't much room outside the house for the children to play, but yet on the one end they did have a little small ball field that they played ball in. There was an ice house up there because they had no refrigeration other than ice, and ice was brought up and packed in sawdust in this ice house during the summer months. And they also had some chickens, and down off the edge of the bank there was another little level area that had a pig house, pig pen. They had a couple of pigs. So. As I say, Hattie brought the children up by herself. My mother was the last one born, and if you spell her name backwards, it says alone. And Hattie was alone that night. The doctor always had to come up by train to get to the house, and they would run an engine up for the other 3 children. He made it in time, but for Enola, he didn't get there in time, so she was born, excuse me, without the assistance of its physician. A totally different way of living than we're used to today. So I guess that pretty well explains the Mount Willard section house. This
is our druggist area. This was given to us by Spencer's Drugstore, which was for many years on Main Street. And this is a mahogany cabinet that they donated and gave to us. And so we have put some of our crystals and our some of the smaller artifacts in this container. We're very proud of this too. It's a nice piece of furniture to have. Some people don't realize it, but we have a section of Littleton that's called Apthorpe. And we had an Apthorpe school, and it's up on Reddington Street. Now it is a church they have there. But when I went to school there, We were there for about, early 1800s to the 60s. I believe they closed down. But anyways, this flag that we have was discovered there, and it's 48 stars, and very interesting to have that flag here. So, very proud of that one. Speaking of Apthorpe, up here we have a picture of the Common. The Apthorpe Common, which is still there today, very popular. But notice this picture, the horses that are pulled up, and they have the blankets on the horses, so it must be a little cool out that night. And they're playing ball there, and that is in the 1800s, around the 1895 to 98 years. So a very important picture.
I'm Nancy Collins, First Vice President and Historian, and this is Faye Lloyd, who is our Secretary and also historian. This is Dick Hamilton, who is our President, and he's helping us to do some research here. And this is Roberta Lavoie, who is also a historian. We're researching the Littleton Winter Carnivals so that Dick Alberini can put together a slideshow that we will present on the different things. This picture happens to be of the ski jump in the 1930s in Remick Park. And then here's another better picture of the Mount Eustace ski jump, which there's much talk about right now on renovating it, but a lot of our children learn to ski at the Mount Eustace ski area, which is off Mount Eustace Road. All here in the background are all our archives. They're all posted, and we have to do them for research. We have some old history books, which are over here, of the Littleton history that we use most generally when stuff comes in on the computer. We try to answer any computer things that come along. Over on the other side of our office here, there are file cabinets which have town files, business files, different people files. Down where Dick is standing, there's a gal that comes in and she takes out all the articles from the newspapers and files them. On the computer we put things to go in the archive books, and also things that have to be recorded and things that we are researching. So everything is on file. We are going to scan some things of the files that we have found that have been archived so that they will be permanently on record here.
As many of you folks know, on the library lawn we have a great statue there called Pollyanna. And Pollyanna has been known all over the world. The author, Eleanor Hodgkins, lived in Littleton, about where Provider's store is now. And she wrote Pollyanna and became very international. Her books were wonderful. We have several here, like this book right here, which is Pollyanna Grows Up. And there's also a movie, by the way, that's been on TV now and then about Pollyanna. Several years ago, the Eames family helped to introduce this bronze statue of Pollyanna, where, sits on the library lawn now. So we're very proud to have these artifacts here. Most of her books are here that she wrote. And an interesting thing, too, in speaking of Pollyanna, in Japan, she was very popular. We have a letter that was written in Japanese and English, it's in the files, of thanking the author, Eleanor Hodgson, for her work in writing Pollyanna. So we have all of this artifacts here, so you ought to come down and see it. Some of you folks that might be interested in seeing the statue, to see her books. In the late 40s, the 50s and 60s, we had another well-known drugstore in town called Parker's Drugstore. And one of the sons live here now, Stanley Parker. And his father, at one time they owned 6 stores. Very, very popular stores. They were in several towns. And so when Mr. Parker, Stanley that is, brought down these pictures, we thought we'd design something to show the stores. And so we've come up with these pictures here, but the door was the main office in Littleton where all the monies were brought in because they had stores in North Woodstock, Bethlehem, Gilman, Vermont even had a Parker's drugstore, plus Littleton, of course. So very old family in town and a very productive family, Parker's drugstore, for many, many years.
Hello, this is Dick Alberini, the new curator of the Historical Museum. If you didn't come downstairs to visit us by way of the elevator, you'd come down these stairs, and this is the spot that you would see. This is our entrance. One thing, item that we have that you could see is we have a lot of Betty Davis memorabilia. And as many of you know, and some of you don't know, that Betty Davis once lived in Sugar Hill. She was a regular fixture in downtown Littleton. I've spoken with people who would go food shopping, and clothing shopping, and Betty would be in this line next to them. So we do have a number of memorabilia from the Betty Davis era. On April 5th, 1941, Betty Davis celebrated her 33rd birthday, and her movie, The Great Lie, was premiered at the Premier Theater right here in town. 10,000 people showed up for this, and it was an incredible amount of people. And we have a box inside the museum that has a photo album that was put out by MGM, showing the trains arriving, showing the parade, the birthday party that was held upstairs. So if you'd like to see more, we have it all down here. We're open on Wednesday. You're always welcome. We're always looking for new members, new participants. Give us a call. We'll be glad to take you on board and also set up tours for you. Thank you very much.